Like everyone else, we covered the story a few days ago of the alleged leak. It seems that it's been confirmed, a leak of a draft resolution from Justice Samuel Alito regarding the upcoming ruling on the Mississippi case, the abortion case. There's been a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, certainly, from a certain segment of society, but there's more going on that I want to make sure people understand it and are prepared for it. Let's talk about it. We'll get right to it. Welcome to another edition of the Marty Chronicles right here on the Conservative Take platform. I'm Marty Nalitz. We always appreciate your viewing us on this platform. A couple of days ago, as we talked about, there was a leak. It's an unprecedented leak. It hasn't happened before. And I think people are still up in the air as to whether a crime has been committed or not. Whether a crime has been committed or not, it will impact the way the Supreme Court justices interact in future cases because it's an unprecedented breach. So they're investigating it. I said this the other day and I will say it again. I'm as certain as I can be that they already know where it came from. And we'll talk about more on that in just a second. But as we continue down the road, this ruling is coming down in a matter of weeks anyway. Abortion. It's important to understand that abortion doesn't happen in a vacuum. People on the left, in my opinion, want you to believe that it's this nebulous concept involving a nebulous blob. And when or if it happens, it just happens, and you go on with life. That's not true. Many years ago, I had the honor, the privilege of interviewing Dr. Bernard Nathanson. Now, if you go back to the 1960s, Dr. Nathanson was one of the founding fathers of abortion in America. He was one of the founders of what today is known as NARAL. He was an absolute, he was an abortionist. I'll just leave it at that. Over the years, he changed. And when I interviewed him in the late 90s, he had come to the point where he was now totally against abortion. And one of the reasons, it had nothing to do with a religious conversion. Later in life, he did convert to Catholicism, but that wasn't what did it. He said for him, he was a doctor. So the science became so clear that really this was a human being. He said in the 60s, there was no ultrasounds. We really didn't know a lot about DNA yet, things like that. And he said it was easy to convince yourself that it really was a clump of cells. He said by the 80s, it was inescapable. So again, I don't want to get down on that, but with Dr. Nathanson, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It involved lives. I'm going to share two quick anecdotes personally. I know a woman who, unfortunately, as a high school student, was raped by one of her public school teachers. Terrible, terrible tragedy. She couldn't tell anybody about it. It pains me today to think of this teenage girl carrying this and not thinking she couldn't tell anybody. She was embarrassed. And that's a horrible thing. She ultimately went through having an abortion. Didn't tell anybody about it for many years, but it haunted her. It haunted her everything in her life. She thought it revolved around this horrible decision she had made as a teenager. It didn't happen in a vacuum. It haunted her. I have another friend who had a girlfriend. They got what we used to call in the family way without being married. The young man made the decision that he was going to quit school. He was in college. He was going to quit school, get a job. They would have the baby. They'd get married. And he had readied himself for that course of action. Unbeknownst to him, the woman who was a few years older than him, she went without telling him and had an abortion. And I won't get into all the ins and outs of that. I don't know if it haunted her to this day. I know it haunted him to this day. This doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it's important that we understand this. Now, again, since the story broke, there is an internet sleuth. He's a lawyer. I don't even want to name him because I don't want to drag him into what may or may not be a real fight. But if you're on social media, you may know he has tracked down an incredible piece of work. He has tracked down who at least is the logical presumption of the clerks to have released this. And he ties this clerk to a lot of different things. So I only bring that up to say again, I think whoever's investigating it, at this point, I'm convinced they know who did it. The pool, it can only be one of the justices or their clerks. So the pool isn't that big. I'm convinced that from a forensic point of view, they know who did it. And whether they will release that anytime soon remains to be seen. Now, let's get to what my real point is. My real point is if you follow the screeching, wailing from the pro-aborts since this happened, you understand that they believe the sky is falling. And it's not just that. They have convinced whoever follows them that the sky is falling. And it's important to point out again, if this goes the way it looks like it's going to go, this does not criminalize abortion. What it does, it says the federal government has no place in it. The states should be the ones that decide it. Essentially, it would go back to the pre-Roe laws in those states, although some states have preemptively said if this passes, we're criminalizing abortion. And that's really where the gist of this is. You see all these morons who either haven't read it or know that people that follow them don't read it. They're telling people these incredibly insane, bizarre things. One woman claimed that she had an ectopic pregnancy, that she said prior to Roe versus Wade, she would have died. That's foolish. That's idiotic. That has always been accommodated. That's a serious health issue. That means nothing. But the fear mongering is crazy. And I want to explain why that is. For people that worship at the altar of abortion, it's not enough to have it legal in their states. If that's all it is, look, the whole West Coast is going to have legal abortions. Colorado is going to have legal abortions. New York, Illinois, they're going to have legal abortions. I'm sure Massachusetts, Vermont, and a few others will as well. So they have the opportunity to have their abortion utopia in those states. You want sunshine? You got Southern California. You want mountains? You got Colorado, on and on and on. So it's not about having their abortion utopia. What it's about is they want to make sure you can't prevent it. They want to make sure that whoever, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Oklahoma, they want to make sure that in those states, you can't live by whatever code you want to live by. This is what's going on in the Supreme Court. They're saying, leave it to the individual states. We talked about this the other day. Personally, I'm an abolitionist. I always have been. I think that when the federal government says, they're there to protect the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, I believe that includes people outside the womb or in. That's me. But you can also read the Constitution to say if it's not specifically named, and abortion isn't. If it's not specifically named, it goes to the states. So that should be the compromise. You want abortion in your state? Go ahead and do it. There's going to be plenty of states that do it. But that's not the point. The people that want abortion want to make sure, first of all, they want to make sure that they have access to young women that want or need or think they have to have an abortion. That's the next generation of activists. Sorry, but that's what it is. The other thing is they can't pay for it. These states are not going to be able to pay for this by themselves, so they want to make sure that you are on the line for paying for it. Listen, you think the billions that we're sending to the Ukraine are going to make giant peace signs? I don't think that's happening. Do you think that the untold billions that disappeared in hospitals during the COVID panic, do you think that went to financing TikTok videos? You're going to see it even worse, with billions of dollars disappearing into the abortion industry. I'm not saying it's money laundering. I'm saying that, yeah, that's really what I'm saying. I'm saying a portion of it's going to come back to the people who pushed for it. So that's the bottom line. that it doesn't matter if you live in a state that has outlawed abortion or says they're going to, that's never going to be enough. Because as I said, there's going to be, I couldn't even guess, 10, 12, 15 that are going to market themselves as abortion vacation spots. And they'll be there, but that's not what it's all about. What does this mean? What does this mean for the average American? Listen, I grew up at a time when, you grew up with this idea of, I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to build my future, whatever that may be. I'm going to build a family. I'm going to put down roots. And I'm going to work towards whatever it is I want, whether it be through the things I want or my children or ultimately my grandchildren, whatever. That's going to go away. I'm telling you, because what's about to happen is going to be really noisy and uncomfortable. There's going to be a lot of yelling and screaming. And I'm telling you, what they're counting on is the people that I just described, who want to just live their lives and raise their families. They're counting on eventually you'll say, whatever, do whatever you want. Because that's the only way they maintain power. Keep watching this. We'll keep covering it right here on the Conservative Take platform.